Welcome to Forthright. I'm Sulani Madsen, back at it after a much-needed break from the weekly column and podcast routine and a trip to sunny North Dakota to hang out with family. This week's podcast features last week's column on the 6 initiatives to the legislature, with an update on their status as of today. Herewith is the column, first published February 8, 2024 in the Spokesman Review, headlined, Legislature Could Open Dialogue on Initiatives. Superficial talking points are conversation stoppers, and Democratic leaders are stifling substantive political conversation early on the 6 initiatives headed to the November ballot. It doesn't have to be this way if the legislature follows the state constitution, making initiatives take, quote, precedence over all other measures in the legislature, end quote. In case you've missed the backstory, in 2023, a group called Let's Go Washington crafted 6 initiatives to the legislature. Each addresses different areas of concern. Each challenges actions taken by recent Democrat-controlled legislatures, and all 6 have been certified by the Secretary of State as having met the criteria for valid signatures. Let's Go Washington has given each initiative a talking point-style nickname defining the intent. Democratic talking points so far are focused on style, not substance. Speaker of the House Lori Jenkins, Democrat of Tacoma, professed in the legislative session preview on January 4th to be saddened when she thinks about these 6 initiatives. Democrat talking points are already being pushed by Jenkins and other legislative leaders, starting with painting Brian Haywood, the primary financial backer of Let's Go Washington, as just a rich guy buying an election to reduce his taxes. I-2109, repeal the capital gains tax, is pretty self-explanatory. Haywood said he invested about $6 million into the initiative effort. Quote, I would need to make $100 million to break even at the current capital gains tax rate. If someone thinks that's my motivation, they don't understand economics, end quote, he said during a phone interview. At a recent political gathering, Haywood said that he's done putting money into the effort, and the effort to push the initiatives through November will rely on donations from a broad base of supporters. Haywood, whose net worth is listed as between $10 million and $25 million, said, I'm just saying let's give everyone a vote. Haywood isn't the only one throwing money into the process, and I-2109 isn't the only initiative ranking in big donations. The first committee to fight one of the initiatives is backed by mega-millionaire software developer Chris Stolte, with a net worth estimated at around $900 million. No on 2117 received Stolte's donation of $1 million on January 29. Labeled Stop the Hidden Gas Tax by its supporters, the first donor to No on 2117 was Trudy Inslee with a more modest $1,500 donation. Past Democrat-backed initiatives have been supported by $1 million-plus donations from Nick Hanauer with a net worth of about $1 billion, and Paul Allen with a net worth of over $20 billion. According to Jenkins, the initiative process is there because folks didn't want, quote, the big railroad barons taking over the state, and they wanted the people to be able to legislate, end quote. The people did, and the Let's Go Washington initiatives might be better understood as a populist pushback against the big tech barons taking over the state. The second talking point comes from Senator Mankadingra, a Democrat of Redmond, saying, we will be taken backward by decades at a media availability for Democratic leadership on January 30. It's an oddly overblown claim considering most of the initiatives merely roll back laws that have only taken effect in the past few years. A prime example is I-2113, Reasonable Police Pursuit, which mostly returns the law to the way it was before it was supposedly fixed. The unintended consequences have been obvious to the Washington Council of Police and Sheriffs who have endorsed the measure. In the case of I-2081, parental notification, and I-2111, no state income tax, the initiatives are looking forward, not backward. The parental notification proposed legislation is not intended to affect existing laws, but clarifies for future lawmakers and bureaucracies that parents have a right to and must be involved in decisions affecting their children's lives. And apparently voters thought it was time for yet another no state income tax initiative, a message Washington voters have sent to the legislature 11 times since 1932. The 6 petition drives contained about 2.7 million signatures total, although not all were valid, Haywood said. Quote, we scanned the petitions and matched them to voter databases to identify registered voters to make sure we had enough to qualify, end quote, Haywood said. He said the group identified 827,000 unique signatures. Further analysis by a political consulting firm indicated over 50% of those unique voters were Democrats or independents. It's a clear example of a broad base of voters using the populist approach exactly as written into the state constitution. Regardless of Jenkins ignoring the precedence of the people's initiatives over other business, voters will have the last say in November. And Democrats in the legislature still have time to set aside their talking points and refer each initiative to the appropriate committee for a public hearing, in keeping with the populist spirit of the state constitution. Or they can persist in ignoring the voice of the 827,000 voters who took their time to participate in the legislative process. That's where the column ended, but there are breaking developments today. Democratic leadership in the legislature is now signaling they may refer 4 of the 6 initiatives to committees for public hearings, allowing the people to testify and provide their reasons for signing and supporting these initiatives to the legislature. It's no surprise that the 2 which the Democrats refused to refer for a hearing are the 2 that raise taxes. Initiative 2117, also known as Stop the Hidden Gas Tax, would repeal the Climate Commitment Act, Governor Inslee's legacy legislation, and there will be no hearings to allow people to weigh in on whether the cost in terms of financial and social impact is worth the uncertain climate benefits. The other initiative on the not to be heard list is Initiative 2109, repealing the capital gains excise tax, the only excise tax in the world which found a court willing to declare it an income tax. Capital gains excise taxes are notoriously variable, making budgeting difficult. According to a recent report in the Center Square, state forecasters have had to reduce their estimates by $150 million due to several errors, and that's before taking into consideration the impact of Jeff Bezos' well-timed move to Florida, which saved him $430 million in taxes so far this year that would otherwise have been due to the state of Washington. Those who were pushing the capital gains tax as a way to collect more from the super wealthy should have paid attention when critics pointed out that the super wealthy have more than one house and obviously have millions of incentives to pick the lowest tax state as their primary residence among many. The other 4 initiatives have been hinted as possible subjects of public hearings due to pressures from constituents and from newspaper columnists, including even the Seattle Times editorial board, but nothing has been decided. Speaker of the House Lori Jenkins has been quoted saying, "I don't know if we'll hear all 4 of them or some subject of them yet, or subset of them yet, but we're getting very close," which is a pretty coy teaser that could just as easily end with an, "Oops, we ran out of time, sorry, this is a short session," as it is to turn into meaningful hearings. And by meaningful, I mean with enough notice for broad public participation instead of a select few protesters lined up and ready to sign in. We shall see. The session ends March 7th. I'll continue to track this developing story and post an announcement with links to sign in and take advantage of remote testimony if and when an actual hearing schedule is published by the Democratic majority who controls the legislature. Be sure to subscribe at Substack with or without a pledge for notifications of new content via an email from the platform. Take advantage of the opportunity to comment on the Substack, on this and on previous posts, or to email suggestions for new topics. As always, reference links for this column will be included after the video link in the Substack post. Thanks for listening.